Hi, everyone. It's been a while. I actually don't even know how long it's been. Has it been months? It may have been months, but welcome to Tanzu Tuesdays. I missed you all. Um, a lot has happened, I guess, since the last one. We've had like KubeCon in Valencia. May have met some of you all. We've had several Spring One tour shows, and we have one coming up next week. The entire developer advocacy team will be there. You can still register as far as I could check earlier today. So if you go to springonetour.io, that's just, it's in Manhattan. Come join us, and there will still be more of them through the rest of the year. There's also still Seattle, which is where I am, so you can come hang out with me. There's Atlanta and Amsterdam as well.
All
And
sorts of
DaShaun
fun
here.
stuff.
Wait, DaShaun's this way. There we go.
All
DaShaun
sorts of fun
will be
stuff.
at a bunch of stuff too.
Fingers crossed. Hope everything works out. I'm definitely
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
And
Yeah,
then finally, like, we finally met in person, so that was cool too.
it was awesome, and I learned a bunch. I saw you dropping knowledge on the Josh Long, and it was such a pleasure. It was such a pleasure. You did so amazing.
Thank you. And then now we're gonna be doing a talk later, this
Yes, we
year
are.
at VMware Explore, which if you are like, "What is that?" If you've ever heard of formerly VMworld, it is now a new conference called VMware Explore, and that is at the end of August in San Francisco at Moscone.
Yes. New and improved.
Like, in-person events. It's crazy, it's still blowing my mind.
Yeah, we still got to be careful, but yeah, it is
Mhm.
so much better to be in
Yep,
person.
I
So much
definitely
better.
got COVID, during KubeCon, so that was great.
Yep. It's one of those things where um, being next to somebody at lunch or the hallway track, right? There's so much more can be conveyed when we can, yeah, watch body language and other people can listen in and we can get outside uh, feedback as well. It's so different. There's so much more uh, back and forth in a 1 hour lunch break than we could possibly do over weeks of Tanzu Tuesday. It's crazy.
I
So I
also
missed it.
forgot what it sounds like to have people clap when you present or, like, hearing the audience. I was just like, "Whoa, like, there's people looking at me. What is this?"
um, yeah, I won't ever, or at least I won't soon forget your face when Josh said, what was it? Fu Q? Yeah. And it was just, it was funny. Everybody laughed. I think everybody was laughing at your face because you made a
Well,
face and it
I
was,
started so he was talking about foos, and then there's a queue, and then he
yep.
said "foo queue," and a person in the crowd started looking like they were trying to laugh, and because they were starting to laugh, I ended up having it, and it just kinda became a thing because, "foo
Yeah.
queue, foo me, Austin Powers," like, I'm super mature.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Totally. Oh, look what shirt I'm wearing. I'm wearing my Toronto shirt. Right?
Aw. I considered
Exclusive.
bringing mine on this trip, but then I decided to just have plain shirts. I'm currently in Boston in the Boston office. It's my 3rd VMware office that I've 4th VMware office I've ever been in, and I got my badge for the first time 2 years and some after starting.
Awesome.
So I'm actually an
Finally did
employee
it.
now,
Finally did it. That's cool.
and I have my own
That's
little
cool.
conference room. I don't have like, the rest of the place, I walk around wearing my mask, and here
Yeah.
I'm good. My own room, no one else. It's great.
Um, I got a question. Do you think developers are having fun right now?
I think it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely developers having fun creating cool new stuff. There are people that are creating cool new stuff, but they don't care about that new stuff. Or maybe they're just having a really bad time because layoffs are happening and there's talk of like just the tech bubble and when is it going to burst? And who knows?
Yeah. Hey, Keith, welcome to the stream. You haven't missed much. We're just kind of getting started. And I'm asking the question if developers are happy right now. Are they having fun? Because there's a lot of uh, chaos, I'll say, in the market. You know, jobs. A lot of people are moving, making moves. Um, yeah, just a lot of change, turmoil. Is that the right word? Um, yeah, a lot of stuff's happening. And I'm just
I think
wondering if developers are having fun. I'm assuming that right now developers are mostly remote. And I don't know if that's uh, a smart assumption. And maybe it's just because of COVID, a lot of people started working remote. And I'm just, yeah, assuming that a lot of people are still working remote in tech. And I think
I
with
think
that,
so.
yeah, I think that's it's changed the way we do things in a lot of ways. And a lot of cool things have happened since the beginning of COVID as well. It's weird just using that as a timeline for our tech, right? But we're doing more stuff remote, and turnaround time is different. Feedback loops are different, and I'm wondering. I think it's a good time to be a developer, and I'm wondering if yeah, if everybody realizes how awesome of a position we are in compared to where we were 2 years ago, and that's why I'm
And
here.
Sweet Killer 9 asked if you meant in general or work related. And also Sweet
Definitely,
Killer
yeah.
9!
Always good to see Sweet Color 9. Uh, yeah, both, right? I think that one affects the other and vice versa. I know that I'm always happy when I'm doing cool things at work. I'm always happy when things are getting to production. I like getting feedback, and yeah, those I like those little wins. Yeah,
Whit
and
Whitney
that's
asked
yeah.
a question, why do you think that now is a good time to be a developer?
I think the biggest thing, the most exciting thing for me is I can do so much more, and I can have so much more confidence today, and I can make the easy things easy and boring, and I can still have a lot of these little wins. I can still get joy out of the work that I do, uh, and I can have more confidence while I'm doing it. That's why I think it's a good time to be a developer. Ambu says that there's an echo. Is anybody else hearing
I
echo?
don't hear it. Maybe
Check
it's
one,
playing
two,
in 2
check one,
different
two.
spots. It could be playing in YouTube and also in the Tanzu.tv site. I'm not sure.
Right on. Right on. Thanks for the feedback. And yeah, cool. No echoes. All right. So Anbu, also thank you for showing up. Anbu is one of our spring office hours regulars. I got something special cooked up for him later. And yeah, this is it. I think it's a good time to be a developer. Uh, and one of the other assumptions that I always make is I think that with all of the change, I don't think that developers are getting bigger budgets. I don't think that development teams are getting bigger budgets. I think a lot of people are being asked to do more with less in many ways. Hey, build more stuff, test more stuff, deliver more stuff. But no, we're not going to give you a bigger budget. If there's anybody on the stream that got a bigger budget to deliver things to production, I'd like to hear about it and how you went about that. I think just from my interactions at meetups and out in the community, I think a lot of people are getting smaller budgets, but still being asked to deliver more features, more functionality, more stuff, and faster. Right? Do more, harder, better, faster. Right? So that's it. Does anybody get a bigger budget this year to deliver code? A bigger team? I'd like to hear how that works. But yeah,
I'd like more budget, and by more budget, I mean both more budget and, more pay because everyone
yeah,
can.
yeah. Oh, you cut out for a second for me. But yeah, I got stuff. I think I'm ready to jump in, and we'll see how it goes.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Where I want to add that. There it is. Doing more with less. And this is all about Tanzu Community Edition. I'm DaShaun. Today is day 184 as a Spring Developer Advocate here at VMware. Before that, I was a Partner Solution Architect at Redis, and I also worked for Pivotal VMware before that. the purpose today is really it's just application developers. That's who I'm talking to. I want to talk a little bit about the relationships between sec and ops, but I'm going to keep things simple. And there's kind of the underlying or the primary premise here is the paved path to production starts at your laptop. And what I mean by that is you should have confidence when you go into work, when you begin your work, that what you're doing is supported, it's compliant, it's going to be approved, it's easy to use and easy to understand, and that should all start on your laptop or wherever you're doing your development. There's the 4 key metrics from the Accelerate book. Nicole Forsgren, PhD, created a few years ago, and it talks about these metrics. These are the things that separate the best companies from the good companies, good, better, best, from the best to the good. And what we would like to do is shrink that gap, but right now that gap is getting larger if you're following or if those companies are continuing to follow these kind of 4 key metrics. But I'm going to add one at the bottom. Lead time. Lead time is just the time that it takes from a customer making a request to that request being satisfied. Shorter lead times enable faster feedback. Simple enough. Deployment frequency is it's a proxy metric for batch size. The more frequently you deploy things, the smaller the size of the batch. Smaller batch size reduces cycle times, and you can imagine those smaller changes kind of reduce the risk and overhead of deployment. The mean time to recover. We're in this time where things are going to fail, and we want to still be reliable. So reliability is measured in how long it takes to restore a service when a failure occurs. Change failure rate is just the percentage of change made to production that fail. The same percent complete and accurate it's the same as percent complete and accurate in lean product delivery. Just how often am I adding problems in production? But then there's the most important one is the mean time to dopamine, right? I'm a Spring developer advocate. I want you to be able to get your stuff to production. And this time is how long do developers have to wait between dopamine hits? Mean time to dopamine. The most important metric for me, it's the one I care about the most daily. So what does this all mean? Why are we here? Well, teamwork makes the dream work. Just in my time, in my career, I've been in that position where, hey, my team is growing and I have to get developers productive as fast as possible. And those developers sometimes are around the world. Today, they're all remote or primarily remote. So getting developers up to speed and getting them productive is a really important part I have scar tissue, a really important part of what I was trying to accomplish. Also, the idea of how long does it take before you're going to get that first dopamine hit at work? With a lot of people changing jobs, like how long is it going to take? And I tell people, ask in your next interview, make sure you ask, hey, how many days from the day that I start is it going to take for me to get my code into production? I think that'll tell you a lot about the organization. Distributed software systems are growing. This whole microservice movement, containerization movement, things are all over all the clouds, and sometimes that's hard to keep track of. So getting a capability to understand things better and test things better and have confidence that the way that you're doing development locally is going to match the way it works in production. Teamwork makes the dream work. Following these best practices, GitOps and good formed process is a big deal. So there's this idea of 15 factors, and I'm going to just kind of run through this quickly. It was created or started by a guy by the name of Josh McKinty in 2015, and it extends that 12 factor concept that was started over at Heroku. These are the things that you should expect out of your system as a developer, and you should have this kind of concept of the big picture. What is it going to look like on your laptop? What's going to look like in production? First of all, just one code base, one application. but a code base doesn't necessarily equal a repository. You should have version control, know what you're working with, know where things are going, and your big A application is going to be made up of a bunch of little A applications. We want to be able to be productive, and this is one way to help that. We want to deliver immutable releases, and this also will help make your deployments boring. API first development, have contracts, do contract driven development, avoiding waterfall and bottlenecks. If you can, uh, have those small releases, make them simple, and you can be doing your development to a contract, it makes it easier. I don't want to have to fall into that analysis paralysis mindset. I want to know what I'm trying to accomplish. I would like to do development where uh, my goalposts are not moving constantly. Dependency management, we want to make sure that we have our dependency. I like to use this. Uh, Spring Boot is one of the reasons that I love it so much is because it takes care of those dependencies. I can have confidence that when I'm using Spring Boot, that all of the things that all the dependencies I'm adding are going to work well together. That's a big deal for me. Design, build, release, and run. Right? These are the different phases of what we're doing. We're going to design small features, convert that code into binary artifacts. Images are the new artifact. We want to be able to have unique, identifiable, and auditable releases. And the developer should be able to do these things locally. They should be able to do these things on their laptop. I apologize for my highlighting here, but configuration credentials and code. We want to treat configuration credentials and code as volatile substances that explode when combined. Keep things separated. Make sure that your applications can get their different configurations from their environments. But I'm also going to throw into like conformance testing. You should be able to, in whatever platform you're working on, you should be able to do a conformance test and have that confidence that what you're doing locally is going to match what's in production. Logs, metrics, dashboards, observability all the way down, right? We shouldn't care about where we're going to route logs. That should be handled by the platform. Disposability. So maybe I'm not sure. Maybe it's about equal to the number of people that are running Kubernetes in production. But there's this thing called event-driven architecture, where we're going to do things a little bit different. But we used to be able to rely on our infrastructure, or that's what we would tell ourselves. And now, as we're moving to the cloud, things are going to move around. Things might even change clouds. But we should be able to scale up and scale down in seconds. If I'm doing that, if I'm expecting that in production, why haven't I been doing that on my laptop? How are you going to test those types of scenarios if you can't do it on your laptop? Event-driven architectures, scaling to zero, automatic scaling, that's something that you should be testing with. You should have that confidence and know how to do it. It shouldn't just happen in stage and prod. Backing services, right? Supported backing services are better than not supported backing services. What I mean by that is operators should be able to put these backing services on the menu. You, as a developer, shouldn't be consuming something that's not going to have some sort of support or some expertise in the building, in your organization, right? Any service that you're going to use, uh, data store, messaging, caching, anything that you're going to use, you want to have that confidence that you can deploy it with confidence, and that you're going to have support as it goes to production. And I'm going to show you in a little bit, your operators, your platform team, they have the ability today to put things on the menu, just like we did with Cloud Foundry back in the day. You should have the ability to go and see, hey, what's on the menu? What's supported? If I'm running it locally, I can expect it to run in production. And again, environment parity. Like this whole idea, hey, it works on my machine. I want to make that confidence as high as possible. Have that confidence that what you're running on your laptop is going to run just like it does in every other environment. But not just yours, like think about your teammates as well, right? The idea of Kubernetes is the infrastructure has been abstracted. Yes, you're getting a lot of the simplest and kind of bottom line, yeah, similar ones across all the different clouds, but that makes it easy for you to consume. Each commit that you're doing is a candidate for release. But you get to do this. You get to focus less on cloud and infra. You don't need to be a GCP expert or an Azure expert or AWS expert. Focus less on your cloud and infrastructure and focus more on delivering value. That's the value of having environment parity. My laptop is going to look just like stage, it's going to look like production. Admin process should be included in what you're doing, how you're doing development, database migrations, cron jobs, etc. All these things that you're doing one off, backup and restore. What happens? How are you as a developer testing for these failure states? Are you leaving that up to the operations team, or are you working together with the operations teams, testing things out like backup and restore of your development, your application, your big A application? Chaos testing. What happens? What does that look like? You should be having those conversations before you get to production. Avoid container determined ports. Make things easy. Make it simple and boring. Stateless processes, the share nothing pattern, data caching, these things should be included. You should be thinking about that before you go to production, and you should be able to validate and run it in the same way on your laptop. Scaling out using the process model horizontally, not vertically. You can do these things on your laptop today. Treat apps like space probes. Send telemetry, send your information. Again, observability all the way down, but having domain-specific telemetry. I have a very strong opinion on how you should take things to production because nobody understands the app that you're developing better than you. So you should be the person that's identifying which information is most important to your application. And last of the 15 factors is authentication and authorization. I'm going to throw a bunch into this bucket, right? Securing your endpoints and role-based access control. But all this should be done before going to production. Your security focus teams might argue that, hey, maybe security should be done first. I often argue that same thing. But as you're doing development, there's a bunch of things that you need to be thinking about. Actually, they should be taken care of for you. These should be the guardrails that you're getting. You should get an enterprise class container registry should be a part of the picture that's handling that critical vulnerability scanning. It's going to handle replication so that Tiffany, being in Boston, I'm here in Kansas City. When I make a commit, when I make a new image, she shouldn't have to go and find that image, right? If I've got a registry that's got that image updated, she should be able to get that update easily. We want this teamwork making the dream work, right? So having that container replication is a big important part. But also those images should have things like container signing. Your registry should be able to handle that as well. We want to be secure, move that security left from the beginning. So let's take a look. I've talked about a bunch of stuff. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. So I did a few things. I set up a cluster before I got here, and we're going to take a look. Hey, I created a cluster, and this is just a Kubernetes cluster, and it's already up and running. Uh, and this is kind of that what's on the menu. I'm doing a list. These are the repositories that are available to me. And those repositories, we're going to provide some packages. Those packages, I'm going to show it one way here. These are all the packages that are available to me. I'm going to show it in a slightly better form where I'm just showing the name. Same request, takes a sec, but these are all of the packages that are available. So my menu, what's available to me, this is what it looks like. I'm going to do a quick little shift over here, and I'm going to let you know, this is the way I think about things. I'm a developer, and as a developer, I really don't want to worry about these other boxes. Uh, I kind of want to just worry about my code. I want the type of experience where when I commit something, it's on its way. It's on that paved path, and I can have confidence that what I've done, the development that I've done locally, is going to look the same and behave the same in these other environments. And this is kind of one of those promises that were made with Kubernetes. But this is the way I look at it. Developer on your laptop, you're going to make changes here. But for this demo, I'm kind of acting like the build cluster, and I'm actually using Docker Hub, which not including all of the enterprise type features that I was talking about before. But this is the picture. So I've got my list here, and let's take a look. I installed the App Toolkit, and the App Toolkit is kind of a meta package, so it installs a bunch of stuff. And this is where I still haven't quite made up my mind. I want to do development. I'm on a 16 gig 2020 laptop. Uh, it's decent. I assume that most developers are, if not at 8 gigs now. I assume most are at 8 gigs now. Uh, but I think that 16 gig, they're headed towards it. And there's also a lot of developers that have even more than that. But the idea, I shouldn't need uh, a massive data center in order to do mature development, event-driven architectures and microservice and distributed systems. I shouldn't need, yeah, a massive uh, computer in order to do that. I have my laptop. I'm happy with my laptop, and I can still get a bunch of stuff done. So by installing App Toolkit, I got Cartographer. Cartographer is kind of that thing that's going to glue together my supply chains. I'll just picture that. Let's go back here. That supply chain. Uh, in the cases I'm about to show you, I have Cartographer set up to create images from code repositories. So the only thing I'm going to give my build system is a repository. And I'm saying, hey, here, go build some images. And it's going to store those images in an image repository. But the rest of my team, everybody else that's consuming this, I don't want them to have to build those images. I want them to just consume those images. So we'll talk about that and we'll see that in a minute. But those are the things I installed. Contour, Flux is doing the builds and setting up those uh, pipelines. Knative serving. This is the special sauce. This is the thing that has me really really excited. Knative serving along with Spring Boot 3 and Spring Framework 6. The idea that I can have these really really fast and really small images, and I can scale them to 0. So I can have a bunch of things installed on my laptop, but not consuming resources as I'm doing the work. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install a bunch of workloads, and we're going to see what that looks like. Oh, so there's nothing there. Oh, there was.
Woohoo! Demo time.
Yeah, I'm doing demo, and what I just did is I installed. I installed a workload, and I'm going to install a couple more. So hey, I've got a workload list. And looks like I installed 4 of them. So these are just apps, and like I said, they're pointing to a repository. So what it's doing is it's actually now building those images because I've got KPack installed. And yeah, I don't know if I want to do that just yet uh,
Do you know why it says unknown?
because it's still working. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cancel out of that demo, and let's go Tanzu apps workload list. We have our workloads, and now we're going to go take a look at that. Tanzu apps workload. Uh, let's look at Spring Boot Native Pi tail. Oh, whoops. Need to put that on the other side, I think. And we're just going to see what's happening. So again, I've got this tiny little computer, and this is the logs of that workload that's happening. And what it's doing is it's going in and it's using build packs. Today, if you're using Docker files, uh, I empathize, and I'm going to say that there's a better way. Uh, And it's okay. It's okay to be using Docker files, but really, it's kind of like using Java 7 or Java 6. Yeah, it works, and I'm sure there's a lot of cool stuff running in production, but the better way to go forward is to look at some build packs. And what build packs are going to do for you is give you a consistent experience, right? If something changes today, right now, if there's a new CVE around the Java build pack or the JVM, that build pack is going to be updated, it's going to be supported. Yeah, buildpacks.io is a great place to start. Paketo.io, also a great place to start. And I always, when I talk about build packs, you can make build packs for whatever, and you can build your own build packs. There's a great tutorial on how to create a build pack on buildpacks.io, and I will show you how easy that is. I always like to talk about the Cobalt build pack, right? GitHub. it's possible to do these kind of things. Take it for a spin. But we're here to talk about developer productivity and this idea of making things easy. So what this is doing is creating some build packs and using those build packs to go out and give me some workloads. So these pods are going, and this is going to take some time. So the value again of build packs is that I can have that consistent experience. If there's a CVE, I can grab that build pack and everything else can be updated using that build pack. Now, beyond that, there's this idea of cloud native build packs. And the way that they're set up is that the layers are separate and you can update just a layer. If you're building Docker files, if that's part of your pipeline and there's an OS layer issue, then you've got to rebuild all of those Docker files because it's going to have to build all the layers on top of each other. Now, if you're using cloud native build packs in something like Kpack or Tanzu build service, you can just change out that OS layer. Let me show you what that might look like.
I'm just
Right. These,
especially excited with being like, here's my code. It could be in Java, it could be in Python or whatever other language, and I don't have to write a Docker file. Hey, make me a container image.
yeah.
Yay. Also, I
Right.
really like when you do all these cool like diagram things. They're always very cool.
So this being my image, right? If there's a vulnerability in that OS layer, and I've made my image with Kpack, for example, I can actually just change out that OS layer. Kpack is going to know, hey, these are the images that I updated, that I created in the image repository, and yeah, hey, this is the one I'm going to change out. We have this really cool process, and at scale, those types of speed ups and those types of performance improvements are massive, right? When milliseconds matter these days, uh, it's important to have that flexibility and that option. And again, it's consistent, right? If you've got a bunch of Docker files, whose responsibility is it to go and update those Docker files? Somebody's, but that's just another thing that you have to keep track of. And we want these things to be boring. So let's go take a look and see if we have an update here. Hey, we got things that are running. So my authorization server is now running. I've got a couple of instances, but these are just my build pod. That was Kpack doing its thing, creating these images. And yeah, hopefully these are going. But we got things up and running. So I think if I go to my workloads list, I think it might look a little bit different. Yeah, things are ready. So this is a good place to be in. Uh, all I did, again, I think I can pull it up. I did a workload create. Let me find that because I kind of buzzed through those with my demo magic. But I'll show example of what that looks like. I'm going to put this here. It might run. So that's what look. Hey, it already existed. But all I did was say, hey, Tanzu apps, workload create. The repo is the main thing here, right? And I don't think I want to do this. Again, as a developer, I don't want to do this. I want this to be done by my build cluster. So if I've got a repository, let's go here. Uh, Here's my little org. I've got some repositories. Uh, it's conceivable that I could, for every repository that exists in my org or my team or my product, that I've gone out and I've ran that command that says, hey, create workloads for this cluster, for these repositories. And it's going to look just like this. So for each one of those repositories, I've got a simple command that says, hey, go out. And this is something I got out of the box. This uh, this little pipeline, supply chain. I got it out of the box. I got it free. It was a simple ad. And that's valuable. That's the kind of stuff that I want. But there's more, right? There's so much more to this story. And this is where it gets really cool. Um, I'm going to do this last step. Let me make sure I don't fat finger it. Uh, Oops, Q cuddle. Uh, yeah. So now what I've done is I've added. See that? I'm looking for my application. I have my Knative serving. Where did my little application go? Oh, did I not put the YAML in there? All right. I don't see it. Default, I'm expecting to see QR, and I don't. Why not? Is that my namespace? Well, here, I'll do this. Not sure what I did wrong just yet, but we're gonna take a look at this. This is Knative serving, and this is the cool part here, is that I can actually deploy my applications and I can give them scale. I can have it set to scale automatically, whoops, and I can also have it scale all the way down to 0. And this is a big deal. So if I've got a bunch of workloads, and 4 isn't that big, but a lot of us have worked on systems where there's dozens, if not more, of these workloads. I want to be able to test things at scale. I want to be able to see if I throw a bunch of these new inputs, a bunch of these new activities. I want to see what happens. How many of these things in my system are going to scale? How do my changes affect the rest of that distributed system? But they don't all need to be running all the time. So right now, I have all of my workloads are running and they're ready to accept requests. What I was trying to do was deploy my a Knative serving example of just an image workload that's going to go and it's going to scale to 0. And it was going to scale to 0 after a couple of minutes, as set here. And yeah, that was the magic. And that's the magic that you can have. And I apologize for my thing not working, but this is the benefit. This is what we're excited for. Beyond that, I can do things like this. I can go to start.spring.io and I can make those things even smaller by using Spring Native today with Spring Boot 2.7 and with Spring Boot 6. If I want to use Spring Boot 3 in Spring Framework 6, I get it out of the box. All of those things uh, with Spring Native are going to be included with Spring Framework 6 and Spring Boot or yeah, and Spring Boot 3. So these are the exciting things. The combination of having those tiny little images combined with scaling to 0 on my laptop. This is what's allowing me to do more with less with my
What does
same laptop.
M3 mean? Sorry.
Milestone 3. Milestone 3. So um, yeah, let's go back. So I kind of showed off the things that I can get. My operators, my platform team can put things on the menu, and that's important. Oh, there we go. And I did this all with Tanzu Community Edition. The idea is everything as code. I was trying to apply uh, Kubernetes deployment. This is the thing. This is the magic, where it can just be an image that's in a repository. And if I make changes or Tiffany makes changes, I just want to get that image. I don't want to have to go and build it myself. I should be excited about the ability of scaling to 0 on my laptop. When I've only got 16 gigs of RAM on my laptop, I want to be able to do as much as possible with as little as possible. Images are the new artifact. Tanzu Community Edition also gives the ability to deploy Harbor. And the other cool thing is I'm working with community members where we're now taking this idea of having Tanzu Community Edition deployed out on the edge on the smaller devices and still using those images as the way that we're deploying updates. It includes cartographer, those supply chains. What does that path to production look like? It should start at your laptop, and you should have the confidence that what you're doing on your laptop is going to work the same way as it does in production. Native builds. What we can do with Spring Boot 3 and Spring Framework 6, we can take and experiment with them using Spring Boot 2.7 and Spring Native, and that's exciting. This is all free. $0. Free 99, as I like to say. We're getting it for free with Tanzu Community Edition, but that also includes a path to support. It's just vanilla Kubernetes, right? But all of that infrastructure concern, that's all abstracted away from me. So I can have this really simple, boring path to production. And there's also a path to support. If I decide somewhere along the road that I want to get that support, that's an easy path. That's why I'm excited about doing more with less in Tanzu Community Edition. Thanks.
Awesome. Oh, hey, we swapped sides now, or is it just my viewing?
No, we totally swapped
Now I
sides.
have to be like going the other
Time
way. Maybe
zones.
if I, you know. Hey, are we on the same time zone? What time is it
Time.
for you?
No, I'm central.
All right.
So
Usually I'm
yeah,
ahead of you or behind you. And I'm ahead of you.
what do you think, Tiffany? Like, is it? I feel like sometimes it might just be me that's so excited about all of these things I can do on my little laptop. And uh, for those that have been around or paid attention to me for the last few months, I like to do a lot of stuff on even smaller devices. I've got these great relationships with companies that are deploying Raspberry Pi type devices, these little ARM64 devices with dozens of sensors out in the wild. And all of these concepts of what I can do locally, doing more with less, I can actually do really sophisticated and mature application development and have it running out on the edge, these small devices. And that gets me excited. All the things coming
I
with,
think it's awesome.
yeah,
Like it's just like the smaller technology and being like instead of like I need to lug like even if you're just playing around, oh I have to lug this giant laptop or whatever around versus hey here's my little Raspberry Pi, it's not gonna melt, this is fine. And oh look, I'm running Kubernetes, like this is cool. I
um,
haven't done it yet, but I need to.
so a fun fact is I was at Cloud Foundry. I was a big fan of Cloud Foundry. It did amazing things for me at multiple companies along the way. And I used to get excited about being able to carry a Cloud Foundry in my backpack. You know, where there's 3 nooks and a switch and some power adapters. I could carry that in my backpack, and that got me excited. But I never had the ability to do Cloud Foundry end-to-end type work on my laptop. And that's one of the big differences that I have today, is I don't have to have those nooks and all the other stuff in my backpack. It's just my laptop. And I can deploy all of those services on my laptop. I can have them scaled to 0, and I get all that benefit, all that power. And that's exciting.
And then I also like with the whole this whole thing with like Kubernetes or Tanzu Communication or whatever, like you can run it locally on your machine, but then you can be like, hey, I want to go run it in the cloud or on vSphere or whatever it is. Like I can go and do that. And here's the
With
same exact
confidence.
application. Here's what I started with, like it started at Spring.io, and it's just like it works.
Yes, and it's the confidence. This is the other exciting thing about Tanzu Communities is I can run it, I can deploy it. You know, I talked about this. I deployed an unmanaged cluster on my laptop, but there's also this idea of the managed cluster that brings in that cluster API. So I can say, hey, I want clusters, one in AWS, one in Azure. I want them to have one control plane node and 5 worker nodes. I can deploy that and I can configure it and say, hey, I want this to be the base image. And I can manage that with a managed cluster. And I can say, hey, you know what? Now it's time to upgrade. And I can go and upgrade all of those clusters, you know, with that same control plane, with that managed cluster and using cluster API. These are, yeah, more enterprise grade, but the Kubernetes that's running on those managed clusters is the exact same Kubernetes that's running on my unmanaged cluster, right? Without the base image and the deployment model. What I was running locally was running inside of Docker, but that consistency and the power in that consistency, because I'm using the same repositories that my platform team said these are the things that we'll support all the way to production. Having that kind of contract in place it's great. If they're only going to put MySQL and Redis on the menu for data stores, then that's what I'll use. That's just one less thing for me to think about, and I can go to production with confidence, knowing that it's available in the repository. That means it's going to be supported in production. I can have those types of conversations, and I can move quickly. And that's just not uh, exciting for a developer. I think that's exciting for any portfolio owner, knowing that they can put these things in place and they can give these contracts and update them easily. And I think about the idea of, oh, hey, you all have to upgrade your Tomcat or your WebSphere or whatever you're using, upgrade to the latest version because all these things have changed. Like, how do you get that kind of information out? How do you share that with the enterprise? And this is a great model. I'm excited about it. I can run it on my
And
laptop.
and also, since you had mentioned, like, hardware and cartographer, one things I really like about Tanzu Community Edition is that the concept of their packages. So instead of like, "Here, let me go to this website and figure out how to install this thing and do all this stuff," and it might be, like, a lot, you can just use, like, the Tanzu CLI and, like, go through the packaging, which is on this link here, to pick some things that exist already there to deal with, or you can even make your own. Maybe you can make a pull request. It's open source. Make a pull request for some package that you decided that you think there should be one there for.
And the packages are nice. It's a nice way of delivering stuff. It makes it, yeah, it's another, uh, yeah, sweet tool that's included. And it's one of those benefits where I can now pull things off the menu. The idea of having this package repository for what's available in the enterprise and delivering things as packages instead of artifacts or just code repositories gives me an even better experience as I'm moving into production. And yeah, all this is available. The documentation is great on tanzucommunityedition.io. And it shows you how to do the unmanaged cluster, how to walk through a managed cluster, deploying something into cloud or into vSphere. Uh, yeah, it's pretty simple. But I also talked about everything as code. I don't know that I want to be doing the Tanzu apps commands going forward. I want to do the kubectl apply and have all of my stuff in a repository. The other things that I didn't touch on were what else is available in Tanzu Community Edition. Things like the backup and restore Valero, where I can actually play with things. I can roll back and I can set my laptop to a specific state from some point in time. I can roll back just like I would in production. I can have these kind of same production type deployment models and production type rollback models, and I can actually validate them locally instead of having to spend. I don't know if everybody's done this, but there are organizations where you go through these exercises once a month or once a period of whatever, and you do the game day exercises where you deploy something bad workload to production, or you shut things down and you see how long it takes you to recover, right? The idea that I can actually do those types of exercises on my laptop, man, that's exciting. I don't have to wait. I can do it now. I want it now. I want that dopamine hit now. That's why I think it's a great time to be a developer.
And like, as just mentioned in the chat, Anbu was talking about how there's like pretty recently we had, oh wow, it just got dark in here. Hello. The Docker extension just came out for Tanzu Community Edition, so you can use Docker Desktop and just like click the extension and then have it running on your machine that way, which is super cool.
It is super cool. It's beyond super cool because it's just as easy. You can go and delete it, and then you have all your stuff back. But what else
I
are you
like
running?
clicking buttons.
Yeah, what else are you running? So this is fun. There's so much more coming. I think for anybody in the audience, what I want to ask is, like, I want you to think about these things. Like, can you do these, production level things? Can you test your development and have confidence that what's going to go into production is going to behave the exact same way? And I mean confidence not from experience that it's going to behave the same, but confidence from verifiable, signed, audible process, right? That things are going to work the exact same way in production. I want you to think about your process. I want you to think about what's missing. Whether you're using Tanzu Community Edition or not, I want you to be successful. I want you to think about what's missing in your process today, and I want to hear about it. I want you to let me know what's missing. And I want to say that I think that it's a great time, and I think you can do all these things with Tanzu Community Edition and the packages that are available. And I think it's a great time to have that kind of conversation with your platform team. I would like this to be the way going forward. The idea of having a, a supported menu that I can simply choose from. I can go to start.swing.io and I can build my applications quickly. I can put it into a repository and then I can share it with my team. It's a good place. Oh yes. There, my friend Russ. I'm going to share this one. Russ is one of those platform types, and this is a great. Thank you so much. Russ uh, is not also, or he's a platform uh, operator, but he's also thinking about his developers. This building the bridge between his development team. And one of the things that he started with was giving those developers an OVA that includes Tanzu Community Edition. So they can go and doesn't matter what, as long as they can run that OVA, they can have this environment and they can take it for a spin, right? He's platform operator. He can't concern himself with whether they're running Mac or whether they're running Windows or Linux. He's given them a consistent environment. And as a platform operator, he's supporting that environment and giving it out to his developers. And it's been a great story and a great experience getting to work with him on that. We're in a good spot, and it's only going to get better. Any questions from the audience? If not, it has been my pleasure. I'm excited to hear how things are going for you. And yeah, stay tuned because there's a lot more coming. There's a lot more coming. Awesome. Well, if there's no questions, then thank you for attending. And I hope we'll see you again next time.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And again, if you're in or near New York, come to
Yes.
Spring One Tour next week. So springonetour.io.
Yes.
Nope, I'm really bad at this. There we go, down there. Register, come join us.
Excellent. Yeah.
And
And
yeah, thanks everyone
if
for
you're a
joining
Spring
Tanzu
developer,
Tuesdays.
look out for the Spring office hours with me and Dan. It's a great conversation. We don't want you to be stuck. Come join us in Spring office hours. Watch your Twitter feeds. Awesome. Thanks, Tiffany, for having me.
Thanks for
I'm
coming on
giddy.
here.
Let's
And
do it
I will
again soon.
see you next week.
Yes. All right.
All right. Bye,
Take care, everybody.
everyone.
Bye.